There are moments in history when power does not fade gradually, but collapses with shocking speed, and few stories capture that collapse more brutally than the fall of Anne Boleyn. In a single day, she went from Queen of England to a condemned traitor, and the speed of that reversal reveals how fragile power becomes when it depends on shifting alliances and one man's favor. At the height of her influence, Anne was not just a queen, she was the force that reshaped England itself. Her relationship with Henry VIII triggered a break from the Catholic Church, a decision that redefined religious and political authority across the country, showing how personal desire can drive systemic transformation. But power built on disruption carries a hidden cost, because every change creates resistance from those who benefit from the old order. In Anne's case, the same upheaval that elevated her also created a network of enemies who understood that her position could be undone if circumstances shifted. Royal courts are not stable environments. They are ecosystems of competing interests where survival depends on perception, timing, and alliances that can change without warning. When those elements align against you, even the highest position offers no protection, and Anne's story would become one of the clearest examples of that reality. Her rise had already destabilized the balance of power in England, especially because her influence challenged both political tradition and religious authority. That disruption created long-term instability, and systems under pressure rarely remain unresolved. They move toward a decisive outcome. Anne's early years at court revealed a different kind of ambition, one that did not accept the passive role expected of women in her position. Instead of becoming Henry's mistress, she refused to yield without marriage, forcing the king into a choice that would have consequences far beyond their relationship. Henry's decision to pursue Anne did not exist in isolation. It directly challenged the authority of the Catholic Church, which controlled marriage law and legitimacy. This conflict escalated into a political crisis, because resolving it required redefining England's entire relationship with religious power. As Henry moved to secure his marriage, he initiated the English Reformation, breaking from Rome and placing himself at the head of the Church of England. This decision elevated Anne to the center of a historic transformation, but it also tied her survival to the success of that transformation. When Anne became queen, she carried expectations far beyond her role as a partner. She was now responsible for justifying the upheaval that had brought her there. In particular, she was expected to produce a male heir, a requirement that would determine her long-term security. When she gave birth to a daughter, the future Elizabeth I, the result was both hopeful and disappointing. While succession was secured in one sense, the absence of a male heir meant that the central problem remained unresolved, placing immediate pressure back on her position. Repeated pregnancies that did not result in a surviving son weakened Anne's standing within the court, because each failure was interpreted as a political liability. Over time, this shifted perception, turning her from a necessary figure into a potential risk. At the same time, Anne's personality created friction with powerful figures who had initially tolerated her rise. Her assertiveness, which once gave her influence, began to generate opposition as her position became less secure. One of the most important figures in this shift was Thomas Cromwell, a key advisor to Henry VIII. Their disagreements over policy evolved into rivalry, and in a system where power is concentrated, rivalry often leads to removal rather than compromise. As Henry's interest in Anne began to fade, the balance that had once protected her started to collapse. In many systems, once a leader begins to lose confidence in an ally, others quickly follow, accelerating the shift. During this period, Jane Seymour emerged as a quieter and more traditional alternative, offering a contrast that aligned with the king's changing priorities. Her presence provided an option, and the existence of an alternative is often what triggers decisive action. Once an alternative is viable, maintaining the current arrangement becomes harder to justify, especially if it is seen as unstable. This dynamic marked the beginning of Anne's final phase, where perception turned decisively against her. Accusations soon surfaced, claiming that Anne had engaged in adultery with several men, including members of the court. These accusations were not only scandalous, they were politically explosive, because they could be framed as acts of treason. In Tudor England, a queen's alleged infidelity was considered a threat to the legitimacy of the royal line, making it a matter of national security. This legal framing ensured that such accusations carried consequences far beyond personal scandal. The speed at which these accusations appeared suggests coordination rather than coincidence, as multiple claims emerged within a short period. Like many political takedowns, the narrative was constructed quickly to create inevitability. Men close to Anne were arrested and interrogated, often under conditions that encouraged confessions. These confessions reinforced the case against her, regardless of their accuracy, shaping perception more than truth. As evidence accumulated, Anne's position collapsed rapidly, transforming her from queen to criminal in the eyes of the court. In systems of power, perception often determines outcomes, because decisions are based on what is believed rather than what is proven. Anne was taken to the Tower of London, a move that symbolized her complete loss of authority. The shift was immediate and absolute, demonstrating how quickly power can be withdrawn once support disappears. Her trial followed with remarkable speed, limiting her ability to defend herself effectively. In high-stakes political situations, rapid proceedings are often used to prevent resistance from forming. The outcome was almost predetermined, as the political decision to remove her had already been made. The trial therefore functioned less as a search for truth and more as a formal confirmation of that decision. On the day of her execution, years of tension were compressed into a single, irreversible moment. That compression is what makes her story so powerful, turning a slow decline into a sudden collapse. Her execution was carried out with precision and efficiency, reflecting careful planning rather than emotional reaction. This efficiency highlights how systems of power prioritize stability over individual lives. With Anne removed, Henry was free to remarry and continue his search for a male heir, resolving the immediate problem she represented. Her removal therefore served multiple purposes, both personal and political. Yet her story did not end with her death, because its consequences extended far beyond her lifetime. Her daughter Elizabeth would later become one of the most powerful monarchs in English history, reshaping England in ways Anne never could. This contrast between Anne's fall and Elizabeth's rise reveals the unpredictable nature of historical outcomes. What appears as failure in one moment can create the conditions for success in another. Anne's downfall also changed how power was perceived within the court, particularly in how quickly it could disappear. Fear became a defining factor, shaping behavior and reducing open opposition. When people witness such a sudden collapse, they adapt by becoming more cautious, prioritizing survival over ambition. This shift stabilizes the system in the short term, but often limits innovation. Her story also demonstrates how narratives can be constructed and accepted when they align with political needs. Once a narrative gains momentum, it becomes difficult to challenge, regardless of underlying truth. In many ways, Anne was both a victim of circumstance and a participant in the forces that led to her downfall. Her ambition enabled her rise, but it also placed her in a position where failure carried extreme consequences. The speed of her execution reinforces a broader principle, that some systems do not allow gradual exits from power. Instead, transitions occur abruptly, leaving no opportunity for recovery. Ultimately, Anne Boleyn lost everything in a single day, but that loss was the result of pressures that had been building over years. Understanding those pressures provides insight into how power operates beneath the surface. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deep historical analysis like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.